Hello and welcome to episode 3, the Cosmic Earth Conversations. My name is Natalie, and I am so happy to introduce Uncle Bodhi and Auntie Amala. Hello, you two.
Hi,
Hello.
Before we start the conversation, I was wondering if you both could introduce yourselves, speak your names into existence.
Sure, I'm Bodhi, my beautiful wife here, who will introduce herself. I live on the east coast of Australia, and I work a lot with people in business, connecting with spirit and bringing all of themselves to what they give the world, and often with men, bringing the healthy masculine to their lives. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm excited to have the conversation.
Lovely, thank you.
And I'm Amala. We've been together for a long time.
Forever.
Forever. That's right.
That's for sure. Many lifetimes. I guess I would say first and foremost, I'm a grandmother. So I have 9 grandchildren, 7 granddaughters. So I feel really inspired. I work as a psychotherapist and coach and counsellor, and I run group meditation groups and beautiful crystal bowl sound healings and drum journeys. I ran sweat lodges for many years in our local community, and I really feel that my calling is to support women to step up, especially given that I have 7 future women sort of, within my little underneath my wings. And I'm really excited about this conversation in terms of looking at what we bring and what we're here for, and how we move forward to bring more love and light and peace and balance and harmony to our planet.
Thank you both. I'm so happy to be here with you too.
And I'm drinking water.
Yeah, as an aspect, what beverage did you bring to the fire?
Right, exactly.
Cheers. I have
We're
some
in very hot January summer in Australia.
That's right.
Yeah, I love how we're in complete opposite experiences. I'm in the depths of winter at night, and you both are in the morning and living it up in the summertime.
Yeah, exactly.
We both had a swim in the ocean this morning. Well, you've had a surf.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
So we're bringing that to the conversation.
Oh, yes. That just my energy just went up so high. Well, to start off the conversation, I would love to, before we started recording, we were talking about stewarding. And it's funny, Amala, as you were talking about your grandchildren and you were saying they're under your wings, you're stewarding them as well. I feel, but yeah, I would love to continue that conversation around stewarding of Gaia and, all that there is to that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been interesting, obviously, the great transition that we're all going through, and the concept of stewardship, eldership, and guiding. I've obviously been wrestling through this transition at many levels, like a lot of people. And I'm getting more connected, I guess, with that concept for myself. Because part of the conversation that I hear is that for a lot of us, it is an opportunity. This is the time for us to really shine the light, to really be the stewards of the transition for Gaia, for all of us. And as I say, I'm connecting more with that. I haven't fully connected with it. There's parts of me that kind of what does that actually mean? Where is it coming from? I love the concept. I love the invitation. Yet I haven't fully embodied that in myself, I guess.
What does it mean for you?
What it means for me is that as an elder and I think having done a lot of work, self-awareness work, there is an opportunity for me to own my light and to shine my light and to support people to remember who they really are.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. That's the invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that in supporting people to remember who they really are, which I feel I do that with the women that I work with as well. You know, that to me is the distilled, that's the essence of the stewardship. Because if you can be who you are and I'm here being who I am and you, and like that's Gaia playing through us, isn't it? Living life through us. That's the star being that we have come incarnated and we're here.
Yeah.
It's really owning who we are. It's going back to that, was it St. Francis of Assisi, you know, behold the lilies of the field. It's that lily knows it's a lily. It's not trying to put something else on and pretend that it's a nasturtium or, you know, like it's, so if I am me, I need to take the mantle of trauma and other people's stuff, and I need to be able to set my boundaries and self-care for myself, not everyone else. I need to take those steps or learn how to take those steps so that Gaia can express through me. That's, to me, that's the real stewardship. Just as I tend my garden, because that's loving the planet, or I go and plant trees because that's loving the planet. I need to tend the garden of myself and plant my seeds where my feet fall, or follow my pathway rather than, you know, taking on a disguise or a mask or a defense and just trying to make my way through life.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that conversation we had that night a few weeks ago was really out of that sense of, well, gosh, if we're part of all that is, we've really got to do that part and be that part, be who we really are. That to me is the real essence of that stewardship sense that we were talking about.
Something that comes for me is like self-responsibility. Like in that, how empowering that can be, of like knowing that like the only thing I can actually control is myself. Control is a weird word, maybe that's not quite the word, but the only thing that I can take responsibility for is me. You know, I can't change what's going on outside. I can't make people do things the way that I want them to do it. It's not about what I want. It's only the only thing that I can like really fully take responsibility for is me and how I like walk in the world.
The piece though, is there another layer in that if we have the capacity and the awareness and the opportunity that it is about being of service, you know, so it is about obviously loving self, responsibility for self. And this is where I get a little bit split, you know, my ego comes into it. It's like, hang on a tick, like, what does being of service really mean? Being of service.
Yeah.
And the dance for me is like, for me, it only really exists when I am connected to the whole. When I'm being of service, not doing service.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where I get split myself because, and that's the dance, you know, that's the cosmic dance, I guess, because I taste it, yet I don't reside in that place of being of service, bringing the opportunity, the capacity I have. And so that's part of this wrestle, I guess, in this transition. Yeah.
It's so funny because I a lot of clients have actually talked to me about this, of like their desire to be of service, but like not knowing how to, and it very much looking like how can I show up in the world? How can I produce almost? Like that's not what they're saying, but that's kind of what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then my question is always like, well, you know, first off, what does that mean for you to be of service? For me, the way that I've had to like kind of like decolonize my way of thinking of what being in service looks like. I had to like see that I was relating to that as producing something. So then I had to like deconstruct that, because I'm not a producer. I'm a creator for sure. When I'm in the flow with spirit, with Gaia, I'm creating. Things are being birthed through. You know, it's very much like the feminine within me, like birthing through things of creation. But it's also like I'm not a machine creating like products, even though like that's the programming that I've received all my life through my schooling, of all of that, of like you're a piece of the machine that produces products in a way, you know. And so
That's realized humanity.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so it's that like it's like take apart that, right, that like, because to be of service could be simply having a practice of like praying to the land that you live on.
Yeah.
That could be your way of showing up in service. It doesn't have to be like seen by all of the world. It could be a very quiet um, like solo thing that you do.
And that again comes back to, you know, being that authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Being of service to me means just communing with the grandmothers each day and, you know, blessing the ocean with gratitude. And but being of service to you might mean, you know, meeting people in business and shifting and changing that. It's like it's that distilling it back to what's real. Being of service for you, Natalie, is setting up this forum and having these conversations with people and sharing that. But if someone else did it, it might be a push thing and a sales thing and a, you know, the industrialization thing of getting a product out, which might not necessarily be of service.
Yeah.
It might be about what can I get?
Yeah.
So it really is peeling back the layers, isn't it? And seeing what's my piece to be of service.
It's interesting you mentioned that too. It's because before I launched this like series, I prayed on it for like a while and really had to like uncover, because part of my process of like being in service in a good way is to make sure I understand what wants to be birthed through, like why, and like and so that it's very like in integrity. And so I was actually at the ocean on my birthday and I was praying and like asking spirit in the ocean basically who birthed me. I'm quite certain I arrived in that portal into these lands and asking like why are you asking this? Why do you want this to be created? What's the intention? What's the purpose? And like very clearly just like free wrote and had like a very clear vision of why to do this series, to have these conversations, you know. And that for me was like, okay, that feels an integrity. I can like walk with this. I can share this with people now. It's not from like an egoic place.
It's interesting for the masculine as well. And we can talk more about the masculine and feminine, yet certainly for a lot of the clients I work with is that real calling around purpose. And the bigger calling at the moment around this transition. So yeah, it's and it can become quite egoic for sure. Yeah, we look at it outside ourselves. Definitely.
I always love whenever I get to connect with you too. I feel like you're my elders who teach me so much about the feminine and the masculine. For those who don't know, I have adopted Bodhi and Auntie. If you haven't caught on to that yet. And love them very dearly and met them through a friend of mine who has passed away, my friend Harnick, and very grateful and blessed to have had his friendship and so grateful that he connected me with the two of you. It has been such a blessing to have you in my life. And I feel I'm always like, let's talk about more about the masculine and the feminine. You both, you're my elders. You just know so much about you've done your work. For me, it is like, it's so exciting to be with people who have done their work. And that I feel because of that, the way that you walk in the world, it just, I want to like sit at your knees and like just listen. I'm like, just you.
Can I just add a little proviso there? The work is ongoing.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Anyone thinks that the work ends, no, sorry.
And I guess on that topic, you know, for me, being called forth by the feminine.
Yeah.
By Amala.
Yeah.
That's been the journey.
It's a power. The relationship itself, I think, is a powerful tool for each of us over, you know, the last 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah.
There's no getting away from that purpose of evolution, that purpose of, oh, what's this showing me now, and who can I be in this moment, even if my old little wounded self's trying to get me to be something else. It's like, okay, who can I really be? Who can that larger self be if I drop back into my sort of heart space, womb space, and really center myself? Who am I being, and who do I want to be in relationship, and what is the relationship that I'm creating?
Yeah, through the third dimension of children and grandchildren and mortgages and jobs and all of that, you know, and really bringing spirit into that in a meaningful way, I guess. Absolutely.
And it is, I feel like, you know, you often talk about the hero's journey. And if I look at life, or the way I work with myself and with women, either in groups or one-on-one, the heroine's journey informs that, although I've never run a workshop to say we're going to do this heroine's journey, although that'd be fun. But the heroine's journey is very much about, you know, that journey deep within. Inanna is the myth or the legend that I really, you know, get a lot of juice from. And I feel like in this time, I think the big piece for me, because as Inanna travels down, she has to take off, you know, her crown and her jewels and her chest piece and her cloak and her everything, so that by the time she gets down, she's visiting her sister in you know, down in the underworld, who's in the throes of labor, and she's peeling all these layers off and has to be stripped away to the bare self in order to meet the sister there in the underworld. And for me, in this point in time, I feel like the layers we're pulling off, or we're invited to pull off, is, you know, the layer of our own wounding and defenses and beliefs, but also the layer of, you know, we often take on other people's needs and wants and desires and feel like we've got to fulfill them somehow, or what's the word, support them to fulfill them. And that's often our role as mothers and partners, but it can't be to the detriment of staying connected or reconnecting with who I am as an individual woman, who I am as an expression of Gaia, of the cosmic universe, and stripping all of those things away to really come back to who I am as woman. What are my wants, needs, my longings, my desires? What is my actual purpose on life? And that doesn't mean I'm going to stop caring for the people around me, but it might mean I start making choices from my own self. What do I want in this moment? Is it to actually do everyone else's washing? Or is it to go, I'm sending that to the laundromat and I'm going to have a lovely yoga practice, or, you know, walk on the beach, or actually just whatever. From my place. It might be that, yes, it's a beautiful day, I'm going to wash all the sheets. That can be my calling. But I think we just get into that automaton, the industrialized human again. And we forget ourselves. And I feel that generationally, that's been certainly in my family of origin, and the culture and society that I've grown up in, women put everybody else ahead of themselves. So that's what And that's what I'm very clear on, really wanting to change, so that, you know, my daughters and granddaughters get a different experience of it.
Yeah.
And I feel that, you know, that in a way, the empowerment of the feminine
Mm-hmm.
in each of us as individuals, men and women, can really begin to to shift that collective experience. But it really needs to begin here.
Yeah.
It's like that reciprocal effect. If I begin it here and then I see it in you and you reflect it back to me, and the, you know, the mirroring of it can sort of multiply it exponentially. When I can hold the feminine space for your masculine space in the polarity of our relationship, you know, that has a resonance and an impact on society. And look, it might be hundreds of years in the future that this balance comes into place.
Right.
But if we don't begin it now, we're just putting off the inevitable, or we're just putting off the possibility. It's the beginning it now that really inspires me and juices me up.
That's funny.
And I
go
got
ahead.
that a few months ago, that idea that it might not be for 1,000 years that we bring this matriarchy, patriarchy into some balance.
Yeah.
But if we don't begin it now, it's not going to be in 1,000 years.
It'll be a lot longer.
It'll be a lot longer, or it could be quicker. Like once we start to shift, you know, the energy multiplies exponentially. So it's really, I really feel like our own individual journey can really, and our journey in relationship, whether that's as a couple or with friends or with, you know, our own female lineage or our children or whoever that is, relationship is just another way of life expressing itself.
Yeah.
The gift that keeps on giving.
That's for sure. We are creatures of relationship.
Yeah, I think the acceleration of this will be the more, like if we do it through matter in the third dimension, it's normally a slower process. And part of this transition for all of us is to bring spirit, consciousness, awareness, and that has the potential of accelerating it for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And the hero's journey then, and again, the masculine, feminine is not gender-based. You know, the colors run through the universe, they run through us. And one of the things I feel at the moment, you know, we've got this whole conversation about the collapse of the patriarchy and the rise of the feminine, and part of the integration for the masculine, and particularly men who are in the masculine. And there's been, you know, a great men's movement, I guess, the last 40 years, is how to initiate the aspects of the feminine in yourself as men. And there are particular processes and initiations you can do to integrate those aspects, which then mean the rise of the feminine in me, creates that equality, balance, equilibrium, whatever it might be. And I think that's where the men's movement will go next. The warrior energy, the healthy warrior, all of that stuff out in the woods and everything's been great. I think now it is the initiation of the feminine aspects for the masculine, if that makes sense.
I mean, I've seen some circles of men coming together and grieving. And it's really powerful. I mean, as like a cisgendered woman, like in my experience, to witness that or to see that and to see like these masculine, like big guys coming together and holding space for one another and expressing and releasing, it's really just, it like gives hope for me. Like, I'm like, oh wow, you know, it's particularly like the ancestry that I come from is very like machismo, at least in one part of my lineage is the machismo like way of being in the masculine, and the other part of my lineage is a different kind of expression of that, but it's still very like a hardened, there's some hardenedness to the hearts of the than the men in my family, and so to see like a completely different expression of like very like, think of a particular image I saw of like very like muscular big guys in a circle like wailing, one person wailing and everyone holding that space for them. It's just, you know, talking about acceleration of healing and balancing, right?
And that it's a really good point. Like, if the feminine has been missing, if the feminine has been disempowered or disengaged, disenfranchised, dissed, then the masculine is hurting, because we are part of the whole.
Yeah.
And for us as women having to charge ahead in this masculine way in the world, like we really feel, or I've really felt, and I've seen it in a lot of women I've worked with, I've really felt the detriment of that, physically, mentally, emotionally. So it can't not affect men in the same way, to have half of their ability, half of their energy field, half of their creative flow and juiciness just gone. No wonder that masculine half ends up distorted, because it's trying to hold everything. The little feminine's just a little whisper away going, oh, here I am. Just call out, I'll come back, I'm just waiting. Like it can't not affect all of us. And when we see what's been going on with the, you know, the rise of fear and that animosity, often it's just come out of the distortion. We can't say whether that's a masculine trait or a feminine trait. It's a distortion. If people are coming from fear, there's distortion there. To come from love, we need to be in balance. We need to have all engines firing, all connections free flowing. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a real power in that, isn't there? To sit in the both, in their balance, in their purity.
And I mean, where that takes me in the real eye of the storm is when it comes to business, we're now developing more holistic structures. Which, you know, integrate the feminine aspects, you know, sitting in circle, you know, letting go of the hierarchical structures, which the institutionalization and structures often inform the behavior, certainly influence the behavior. So that's all part of it at the very pointy end, right through to the bigger context. How do we bring this across our whole society, really?
Can you talk a little bit more, Bodhi, about the, as you call it, the contemporary hero's journey?
Well, I guess the piece in all of this conversation is, one is the archetypal hero's journey, which is every culture has, and is still informing us, our psyche, whether we're aware of it or not. And the other is certainly my own personal experience. How do I bring that as a householder? How do I bring that into the third dimension, as I mentioned, mortgages and marriages? And that's what a lot of my clients are asking. You know, we've got this potentially large shift occurring, collapse of the distorted patriarchy, the rise of the healthy feminine, and men who are going, what is it to be a man? And how do I navigate that with a mortgage, with children, with a career, those sorts of things. And so I think the archetypal influences are the same. I think the initiations are the same. The rites of passage are the same contextually. I think the challenge is how to navigate and bring those into this third dimension. So the content's different, you know, yet the context is still influencing them. And a lot of guys on that journey, you know, when you think about the influences, feel you know, there's so much distortion about the hero's journey. So they feel freedom lives outside of them.
Mm-hmm.
They want to go sit on a mountain, or they want to go and watch sport all day, or whatever that might be.
Right.
Instead of, how can I feel free and work in a business and have a mortgage and children? So all of those milestones, all of those aspects of them for the masculine, that sense of freedom, that sense of connection, that sense of purpose, that sense of contribution. It's like, how does the contemporary expression of that occur in downtown San Francisco or in Sydney or wherever it might be?
Yeah.
And I think it's all there, you know, and it's actually simpler than we can imagine.
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to that, particularly for men and young men, not having the scaffolding, which is important. The masculine is the scaffolding.
Yeah.
Where's the, how do I navigate this? Where's the scaffolding? What are the anchor points? Where's the structure for me to be able to navigate this, so I don't feel trapped in a relationship? It's actually the most powerful healing place for me. I don't resent having children. It's actually a great gift to learn about myself, all those sorts of things. So does that make sense, Natalie? Those, yeah.
No, it definitely does.
Yeah, and then
like, in the conversation that we're having, something that is repeating in my head is this inquiry of like, how do we, because so many of us have been cut off from like rites of passage, having those rituals that are really essential to, like, I feel at least, they're really essential to helping you go through understanding how to show up. There are like unintentional rites of passage, and I don't think they're helping.
Yeah. Or you feel like something's a rite of passage. I've gotten married, or we've bought our first house, or we've got our first baby.
Yeah.
But it's just like being dropped off a cliff. It's like, oh, well, what now? I've got this baby that we've been waiting for all these 9 months. And now what? And I think for the feminine and the masculine, for men and women, like you say, there's these cultural rites of passage that no one's taken us through.
Yeah.
Because traditionally rites of passage were led by, you know, the older women and the old men, the elders within a community.
And there's initiation, and there's, you know,
and they've gone through these things themselves.
Yeah.
And it's the context that we've lost.
Yeah. The content can be different.
Yeah, the content, contemporary content can look quite different.
It needs to, really. If I've got a family or a job or whatever, I can't, you know, go off for 6 days and be initiated by a group of men necessarily. But I still need to be able to embody the word, as you were speaking, that kept coming to me was, how do I embody that freedom? How do I embody that, you know, empowerment, or whatever it is for each of us, men and women?
Yeah.
What's the women's, men, you always say men long for freedom.
Connection and love. For
connection.
The feminine. The feminine's driver is connection and love.
Connection and love, which is that the circle.
Yeah.
And that exists within every single one of us. Again, going back, like, it's not a gender thing. We all like want freedom and connection and love. That is a question of the feminine, masculine in us. And I see that what you were talking about, like going away for 6 days to, you know, to be, you know, get initiated and whatever. Something that I find a lot is that people have that challenge of in living in the like modernity. We're not in villages. We don't have the like village life. So many of us are like in our home, separated. You know, we have our families, but I mean, just like right now, a lot of us are just in home. We can't be with other people. And so I find that people have such a hard time when you do go into those practices, those deep, old, ancient practices of ceremony and ritual, and you have these like explosions of, you know, awareness and healing and all these things, and then you take that and then plop yourself back into your life and the way that it's built. It was making me think of when you were talking about like you get married and you're like plopped in, like you did the thing, now you're here. You have a baby, now you're here, now what? You know, I feel like that what is happening is that our need to like figure out a way to bridge those experiences so that like the integration can happen. I know one of my teachers, he always says, like at the end, he always says, you know, now the journey begins. It wasn't so much like the ceremony, that experience with spirit is like you taking that and going into the world. That's when the journey begins.
Yeah.
And it's so important because that integration piece, I feel people like miss that so much.
I'm just writing that down. I love that.
One of the key things there at a practical level, which Amala's taught me a lot about, and we're both energy psychotherapists, is when you have those peak experiences, is how to contract your energy.
Yeah.
Because what people do is have these peak experiences often away from their 9 to 5, yet don't have the tools and awareness to contract their energy to bring it back. And so they come in very open, very raw, you know, very heightened, and then they go back into a totally different vibration.
Yeah.
And so just that practical step alone is so powerful, because in that contraction, and when you have awareness of your own container, then you can bring in the integration, integrating the learning, integrating the ritual, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah, because it could be very isolating and painful if you don't have that awareness. Yeah. I think that's something that people experience a lot. Or you hop, when you were talking about the I forget how you said it, but you hop from one experience to the other because you're like, I just need to feel it again. And so people there's people who get addicted to that feeling and like want to like continuously, you know. And then there's people who are like depressed. You know, you have the high, and then you're going to like this low because you're like back in the thing that created what you were going to get healing from. And so it's like
well, those peak experiences, I guess, in real traditional cultures, they were always held and managed by the elders or the shaman or the guru, the teacher.
Yes.
Because of that.
Yeah.
You know, because when you
and you were living in that space with them.
Exactly.
And when you came back to the village, there was a welcoming and a revering, or we knew you were changed. You'd gone off to do this, and now we welcome you back as this, whatever the next level of your evolution, or you're a man now, or you're a woman now, or whatever we're not going back into the old relationship with you from before.
Yes.
Or your rite of passage.
Yeah.
Whereas in our culture, we don't have that. So we go off and do the lovely whatever it is.
Yeah.
And expand it. And if people don't understand how to integrate, how to sort of transcend and include what's gone on, that even that first little bit of contraction can feel like a loss.
Yeah.
But it's understanding that contraction is part of the integration.
Yeah.
And that you need to work with your energy, you know, possibly over the next week or 10 days, so that you can really embody that expansion, embody the new way of being or the new learning, whatever you've gone and done, and just keep breathing it in and out, so that it is always then available to you. Even though that was a week ago or a month ago or last year, it's like, oh, there's that. Oh, yes. Oh, I've got that. I can go back to that. I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, that beautiful yoga retreat we did in Ubud. Oh, it's here because I've learned that. But I spent many years going off and doing things, and as soon as you drive in the gate and one of the kids goes, Mom, oh, I'm back here now. So it's very much about, and again, it's that energy, isn't it?
Well, it's all in your field. Yeah. So
and knowing how to use my energy, or use Mother Earth's energy, or the cosmic energy. But
all of it.
Packet. All of it. Yeah.
And that's the other piece, is to that point, is the grounding practices, like that's just, it's like
lay down misère.
Like whatever,
no ifs, buts or maybes.
Exactly. Whatever your personal practice is, if the intention of the grounding, the connecting with Mother, is just, you know, Mother can hold it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can hold all our trauma, can hold all of our distortion. It's just consciously connecting. And as you say, recently you've said, it's almost now time for us to be giving back to Mother.
Oh yeah.
It is.
You know,
it
like
absolutely
that context.
is. Yeah.
I was going to say, just as a side note, Natalie, so we run rites of passage for teenage boys. That's part of my give back, or have done in the past. And it's very much that, you know, they are taken away from their mothers. It is an initiation and then brought back to the village type thing. So yeah, bringing some of those practices into
how has that been? How has that experience like ripple into the community?
Well, I think the most fascinating thing is the people who get most out of it are the fathers that go with them.
Of course.
They're not conscious of that when they go. And I certainly wasn't when I did it 20 years ago. You know, it's like...
And because you never had that.
Yeah, exactly.
None of that generation had that.
Yeah, and a lot of men haven't had fathers or masculine figures in their life. Yet, so that's a key aspect. And the other is, you can see now, having tracked some of the boys to men for 20 years, how they're just more solid in life. They've got an anchor. They've got some clarity, and they're making an impact in their world, I guess. Yeah, I think, and again, it comes back to that connection and belonging and purpose. Yeah, which is all of us. That's all we really want. The fundamental level, you know, that's the thing. But for all of this, you know, the men's work, the teenage boys, the youth service I'm involved with, it's just, you know, belonging and purpose. That's which is in self and other community relationship. Yeah. And,
you know, in some ways, and I would echo what you say about, you know, what I see is good men. You know, some of them are in their 20s and 30s and they're good men. Not that other men aren't good men, but there's something energetically I can often pick out if I start to work with a man, you know, out in the community. I go, did you do this? Oh, yeah. My dad and I, it's like, I can feel that. But it occurs to me, just as Bodhi's speaking, that women, you know, we've had this, well, I certainly have since the 60s, you know, I am woman, hear me roar. There's been something to you know, hook our umbrellas onto and try and get traction with. But for young men growing up and seeing all this, you know, women going, we want this and we want that, it's like for them to have something that says this is what being a man is, because it must be confusing, I'd imagine. Imagine a teenage boy with all this Me Too, or it's like, my God, men do that? Like, what's the flip of that? We're not seeing that on the front page of the Washington Post or, you know, the Australian or the Morning Herald. So it's in a way, it's even more important that the young men get some sort of shepherding through that period, because of what they're seeing and what they're being immersed in.
I think part of what happened to that is we threw away a lot of the healthy aspects of the masculine. And, you know, so if you think about the family unit, and often it is still nuclear, although, you know, we're building more and more communities, there is a natural, there are some useful aspects of the way it's developed, which got thrown out with it. So the fact that the masculine can be on purpose and maybe the predominant income earner isn't a bad thing. If it's you know, negotiated, if it's discussed, if it's the most useful, you know, thing for the family unit, yet a lot of those things were considered to be bad, or, you know, the struggle that you have and we have with women with children and careers and purpose, this whole, you know, mother's guilt. And it's such a huge, again, we've thrown away, mum looks after the children, dad provides. the distortion of that, absolutely. But the reality of what's best for this family unit is a conversation within the family unit. And it may be that dad works more than mum. But I think that's part of where the men have got lost. It's like, well, I can't, I'm not supposed to work. I'm supposed to co-parent. I'm supposed to do all of this stuff, as opposed to that's content again. What's the context? You know, what's a healthy family unit for you, for you as a couple and you as your children. And that can be any version of that. I think that's where a lot of men have got lost. I think being the provider in the context of maybe the primary income earner is a bad thing.
Sort of disempowering or disenfranchising the partner. In the
exactly.
family,
which is a huge generalization, I think. As opposed to what works for us.
What works for us.
Because everyone's different. I mean, that's just even in the context of like a hetero relationship of like that family unit, what that would look like. And then there's so many different iterations of what family units can look like. I mean, there's blended families, there's just so much. It's and I think I agree with you that it has gotten very much of like almost like what's the new fad, or like we have to do this because that's what everyone else is doing, and ignoring like the needs of the like constellation that you have created in your family unit, whatever that family unit looks like. And what you were talking earlier when you were talking about the initiations with the teenage boys and how the grown men who you know in the community, how you can tell like they're just their energy. And what made me think of what we were talking about earlier about stewarding and how like there's like that self-responsibility. And I find myself wondering like if having those rites of passage held within the context of community, I feel like I wonder if a layer of what that does is also add to that layer of self-responsibility. It's like self-responsibility to self and self-responsibility to the community as a piece of the community. Not like, do you know what I mean? Like not like I have to take care of the community, but I'm like, oh, and now I am part of the community, an integral part of the community. That's my responsibility to like hold, stay
I have
grounded.
that place there. I have that place there.
Well, again, it comes back to belonging,
right?
But with a strong sense of self and a sense of belonging to your land, your community, to your family. And I think they're very healthy aspects to contribute whatever you're here to contribute. And the flip of belonging is, and certainly we've seen it in our small community, 3,000 or 4,000 people, is there can be a real conscious and unconscious judgment of youth, or judgment of, it's like they might be going through a risk-taking stage, but people judge them as being, rat bags or whatever it is, which splits the whole concept of belonging.
Yeah, it does.
It's the whole, it takes a village, it's like they're part of our community, let's help them navigate this.
Yeah. There's, it makes me think of this practice. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, restorative justice. And I know there is a community, I can't remember the community, it's in Colombia. It's an indigenous community, and their practice is like if someone in the community does a crime, for example, instead of like outcasting that person from the community, they gather as a community, knowing that like if this person has done harm, so let's say a person like violated someone, if this person violated that person, it's not that that's a bad person, it's that we have been doing something as a community that has created this like experience that has happened, and we need to all take responsibility for this and gather. And I know restorative justice practices are a different way of dealing with, I mean, so much, but it's just a really interesting. I when I was in my master's program, I took a weekend workshop class on it, and was like blown away by a different way of being, of resolving conflict and with people. And for a time I was working in middle school, and they had a restorative justice officer like in the middle school who would like work with the kids when there was like fights and stuff like that. And I know
Yeah.
that's a thing that like a lot of schools have. They're growing this like having restorative justice officers, I think is what they're called. And it's just like a really different concept of being with people and not outcasting them when they do a crime. There's amazing programs in San Quentin prison in California where they have restorative justice circles for the prisoners there, and like different programs and stuff that have really profound healing.
Yeah.
For the people. It's really it feels like practices of restorative justice are very informed by Indigenous ways of being, and so it feels very matriarchal.
Yeah.
And it's just very
circle again, isn't it? It's the circle.
Some of the stories out of South Africa post-apartheid of restorative justice, that's amazing. Like incredible compassion and healing.
Well, there's such connection. If we're all in circle together and I've done something and you take responsibility for, you know, something that happened between us 3 years ago, which started me on a track of then doing something nasty to you.
Yeah.
We connect, we heal that thing from whenever or wherever.
Yeah.
And that healing then goes through to, then I realize that I've overstepped, you know, like it supports me to then reach out to the person that I've harmed in some way.
And I think
it comes back to the circle of connection and love, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And responsibility. I can respond to that.
And I think that's what we've lost a bit through this COVID as a collective.
Totally.
So much division, it seems, globally. Like obviously in smaller circles, yet as a species, you know, the context for me moving out of this is how do we cohabitate together as a, you know, with mother, each other. What does cohabitation look like? And for me, it has to be from that place of acceptance and oneness, no matter what.
Unity.
Unity, I mean, as disgraceful as some of the behavior may be, you know, we're just buying into it.
If we resist it.
If we resist it or see ourselves separate, or instead, it's restorative justice would be sitting down with all of the distortion we've seen with open hearts and offering love to the political leaders, the business leaders. Like that's the healing opportunity. That's a high ground for me anyway. You know, but imagine bringing that into the conversation more, as opposed to the they've done me wrong division, you know.
And if you're not with me, you're against me.
Right.
I'll block you, or I'll unfriend you, or I'll
cancel you, or
you either believe in masks or you don't, or you believe in this, or it's like just all part of the whole, part of the collective, the circle again.
Exactly.
Well, I know that we could go on in our conversations.
We could.
Mindful of the time as well. So as we start to wind down our conversation, again, I would love to just talk to both of you on and on and on. I would love to ask you both, what are you currently creating in your life?
What's fascinating for me, you know, and really noticing and working through last year and the great transition, the great reset that we've all experienced, and I feel something has shifted a lot even in the last couple of weeks. That's, you know, at the larger level, or whether it's just at my personal level. And at the moment, I feel like I've just landed on this beautiful soft pillow, and I just want to rest and enjoy and contribute, but without that drive, without that need to make a big impact or push energy. It's just, this is just a soft place to fall and to be and to enjoy. So that's what I'm creating.
Let's go more of that.
Yeah, that feels lovely. Yeah.
I can see the planet just going, oh, I'd like one of those pillows.
Yeah.
I need
I'm
rest.
thinking, like, once we're done with this call, I'm gonna go do that.
Oh, yeah. And for me, I'm really taking these few weeks in January to really realign, regroup. I've been doing some amazing channeling with the grandmothers around, you know, what for me in the coming months and what for my clients in the coming months. I'm really excited about having that time and space in my life to actually really spend hours and hours each day on my personal practice, like really, and don't do anything until that 4 or 5 hours is done. Then sit down and write my product, or, you know, call my clients or whatever. The doing part, really spending the whole morning in the being part, in the aligning part, in the energetic part, because that's what I'm bringing to bear on the world. That's Gaia really razzing through me, juicing me up before I put it out into the world. Beautiful. Or I just curl up with the Labrador and keep it to myself, whichever.
Is that your pillow?
The balance of the both.
Came over before to say hello. He's resting.
I know, I saw.
Yeah.
And if folks want to connect with you too, or to follow you, how can they connect with you?
What's your Instagram?
Well, my Instagram is Sacred Grounded Presence. It's mostly been grandchildren recently because
hey, that is sacred grounded presence.
That is sacred grounded presence. They really are my inspiration, especially, you know, the joy and they really light me up from the inside. But part of what I want to really work out, I'm not very good at technology, so but I'm on there, and I'm on Facebook as Amala Rose. So they can link up with me there, or link up with me through you. You can pass on my email address to anybody who'd like to know a little bit more.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's a good question. My sense is I've got a LinkedIn profile called Bodhi Aldridge.
Does LinkedIn still exist?
Yeah, that's right. Somebody contacted me through that recently. They're like, I don't have a website. I don't use Instagram or Facebook at the moment. So there is a LinkedIn profile if you search it, or obviously through Natalie, or I'm sure Divine Intervention will, if it's meant to connect.
Send the message out into the ethers and somehow you'll receive it.
Exactly. You know, it just happens. It's like, somebody told me I need to ring you. Okay, great.
That's very true. That is very.
But just want to acknowledge you, Natalie, for your calling to bring this work into the world. And, you know, I know there's only one form of what you're bringing into the world, but your light, your love, your heart, your passion, your beauty. Yeah, just really want to acknowledge.
You're making me blush. You can't see it, but it's there.
I know what you're saying. So yeah, just want to acknowledge that and all that you're bringing. It's beautiful, and thank you for this invitation and the many conversations, and to all your viewers. It's a beautiful time, you know, to shine your light.
Thank you. You are absolutely the embodiment of the feminine. You are just so delicious and gorgeous, and what the creation that you birth forth is just heart-opening and inspiring. I just love you so much.
Well, I can't wait to see you both in person and give you a big hug again. I will make my way there to your lands. It will happen sometime.
That's it. I'm going to send a pillow over to you.
Good. have a string attached and I'll just follow the
Yeah.
pulling.
Yeah, that's right.
Pull it in. Gorgeous.
All right. So much love to both of you. Thank you so much
Love
for
you.
joining me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Talk
Love
soon.
to everyone.
Yes, love you all.
Bye.
Bye.